Hi guys, it's Kelly Shalal, registered dietitian and personal trainer from your favorite healthy living blog, hungryhobby.net. I've been doing a few of these videos recently and you guys seem to really like them, so I'm going to keep at them. Since it's January still, we'll stick with the topic of counting calories and weight loss and all that stuff, and I'm going to awkwardly stand back here, maybe not with my hands on my hips, but I'm going to awkwardly stand back here with, I need like a Hungry Hobby banner. I'm working on it. If I'm going to do more of these videos, I'm working on it. But one of the number one questions that I get are the differences between calorie counting and macro counting, and if you need to do any of it for weight loss. And so that's kind of what I'm jumping in to talk to you about, as long as my voice will allow. So let's start with calories. Most people know what calories are. They're the energy density of food. What most people don't know is that calories are relatively inaccurate. Most studies show that there's at least a 10% variation on food labels. So when someone goes to, a company goes and they pick up a product off the shelf and they bring it back to their lab for analyzing it, they find a huge discrepancy. So we're 10 to 50% discrepancy in actually how many calories that product has versus what it's labeled as. So number one, they're kind of inaccurate. And then the entire process of determining how many calories are in food are kind of inaccurate. One of the best examples of that would be almonds. So for years and years and years, we said almonds had X amount of calories, but turns out that because of the fiber content, whole almonds might actually have a few less calories in them. So that's just an example of how we can miscalculate calories or even misanalyze them. I'm not going to go into the whole big process of calorimetry and how calories are determined, but let's just say that it's not entirely arbitrary. There is some science to it, but it's not a perfect science. And so living your life by a calorie count is probably, it's okay, but it's not 100% accurate, right? Recently I had a comment on the blog where someone was concerned that I calculated a recipe differently than how they calculated it. I thought that was a really good example of the fact that, I can use one calorie counter and you can use another, and we might come up with totally different nutrition facts or varying, right? I used a third nutrition facts on that same recipe and found a 40 calorie difference, right? So the number one thing that you need to know about calorie counting is that it is not perfect, and so people tend to get a little obsessive about it. I know when I calorie count, I absolutely go off the deep end and get super obsessive, so it doesn't end up being the best choice for me. So you kind of have to weigh those pros and cons, and you just kind of have to relax a little bit about it and know that it's an estimate. So that's the first thing. The second thing is calories are made up of, the calories in a food are based off of how many grams of protein, fat, and carbohydrate there are in a food. So when you hear the words macro counting, what we're talking about is macronutrients, and those macronutrients are grams of protein, grams of fat, and grams of carbohydrate. Micronutrients, on the other hand, would be things like vitamins and minerals, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, etc. Potassium, calcium, those are micronutrients. So when you hear people say they're counting their macros instead of calories, in a way, they are still counting their calories, but what they're doing is ensuring that instead of eating whatever they want all day, that there's some balanced nutrition to their meals, which is what I would prefer someone do. Anytime I have a client that wants to calorie count, or someone comes to me that wants to calorie count, first thing we discuss is their calorie level. And I discussed that, at least, why you shouldn't go too low in your calories. Lower is not a better thing, in a previous video that I will link to, or you can find it on my channel. So that's number one, is that I will look at their calories, but I will look at their breakdown, and I want them to pay attention to that breakdown. I want them to pay attention to how many grams of protein, fat, and carbs. If you're going to count, I do think that is a better route to go, because when you're calorie counting, you can do what I did when I first started. I did literally everything wrong before I was a dietitian, and some things wrong when I started, because that's life. And you could literally eat Twinkies and, French fries all day long and be under your calorie count. Now, what happens with that? If you're eating not so healthy foods, not whole foods, not filling foods, and you're not balancing your foods, but you're staying under your calorie level, you are going to feel like crap. You might lose weight, and so that's going to make you feel happy and better, but A, the weight is not going to be as sustainable. B, your body's going to be starved of nutrients. And 3, if you're eating carbohydrates only all day, like sugar basically, if you're eating sugar all day long, if like your calories are coming from soda and whatever, then you are probably going to feel hungry because those calories are just not as filling, right? And you could feel tired. There's a whole lot of things. I did also a recent video on fluctuating energy levels. That'd be a good one to watch too. If you're into watching videos instead of reading blog posts, because I will link to all the blog posts in this post as well. So moving on. So why is it beneficial to look at the protein, fat, and carbs? Well, protein, first of all, it takes 10 to 20% of the calories from protein are used in digestion versus 5 to 7% in carbs and 1 to 3 in fat. So one of the reasons that high protein diets are effective is because they actually increase the amount of calorie expenditure happening in the digestion process, which is kind of cool. Another thing that they do is they increase satiety, right? So they keep you fuller for longer, and it also helps support muscle mass. So if you're working out, or even if you're not, if you're aging, as we get up in age, we tend to lose muscle mass. Whatever the deal is, most people need enough protein. The caveat to that being is if you already have any kind of kidney concerns, then excess protein may be an issue. So, but if you're healthy, you have healthy kidneys, then protein is going to be a big part of any weight loss, body composition changing goal, right? And it's definitely something that I neglected when I counted calories. And not only did I do it wrong because I counted calories too low, but I didn't pay attention to protein at all. And I lost tons of muscle mass. And yes, I was thinner, but I looked kind of like a flabby, thinner version of me. Not that I didn't really get why I wasn't getting that long, lean, magazine pictures type deal, and the reason is because I was probably emaciated. So there's that. So protein is extremely important for all those reasons that I just mentioned. Increase metabolism, increase satiety, increase your muscle mass, or maintain your muscle mass, which, as you know, helps you burn more calories throughout the day. So that's protein. So fat is really, really important, and kind of another huge mistake I see people making is they know protein's good, but they think carbs and fat are evil. And so I see them like, oh, I'm on a low carb, low fat diet, high protein. Well, the problem with that is that if you just eat protein all day long every day and like celery or whatever, your body is going to realize that you're starving it of energy, and it's going to start breaking that protein down into sugar instead of using it for the metabolic processes and amino acids, instead of using those amino acids for the metabolic processes in your body that protein is intended to be used for: recovery and repair, enzymes, skeletal muscle, etc., right? No, it's going to start converting it into sugar to use as an energy source. So at that point, are you really on a low carb diet if you're taking all your protein and converting it to sugar? Maybe, not so much, right? So hopefully, and maybe I should do a whole nother video on why you should not fear fat, and I'll probably do 15 videos on why you shouldn't fear carbohydrates, especially if you're a female. But fat is satiating, okay? Fat is filling. And so I could do this whole long thing about when we took all the fat out of our diet in the 80s and 90s, and we ate a ton of refined carbohydrates, and clearly nobody got better. Diabetes went up, all these chronic conditions kept skyrocketing, right? Obesity kept skyrocketing, right? Taking fat out of the diet is not the answer. What you want to do is eat healthy, unprocessed fats. Now, again, I will do a whole video on this, but as far as losing weight and macros going, you want fat in your diet to help keep you full, to help give you energy, and to help support hormone health. And without balanced hormones, you will not lose the weight or keep the weight off that you want to keep off, or it will be extremely difficult. So healthy fat is an extremely important part. And then carbs. Carbs are not evil. Too much of the wrong carbs, like sugar all day long, if you're drinking lollipops and, frappuccinos all day, then yes, carbs are bad in that instance. But if you're eating things like sweet potatoes and whole sources, sweet potatoes, beans, brown rice, oatmeal, the list goes on and on and on. I've got another list of that all on the blog. You need that for energy, and you also need that to help you recover from your workouts. What the right mix of that is depending on your goals, depending on if you have pre-existing health conditions, right? If you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, that carbohydrate is that I would assign is going to be lower. If you have kidney concerns, that protein that I would typically give someone would be lower, right? What else? If you have blood pressure concerns, I'm not going to be so diligent about the fat, but maybe more micronutrients. I might actually assign you a little bit lower carbs, right? So, in general, one of the most standard recommendations is 40% carbs, 30% fat, 30% protein, and you can basically, whatever calorie level you're using, you can break that down. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, 1 gram of carb is 4 calories. So you can kind of break that down and figure out how many macros you need. I do not suggest just going by whatever you plug into a calculator because, as I discussed in the 1200 calorie video, everything that you plug in is going to be different, right? So if you need help calculating that, that's something that I can help you with for sure. But it's important to realize that again, is a template. So getting enough of those foods, and if you have no idea what a protein is, what a fat is, what a carbohydrate is. I'm sitting here talking and listing all these foods off and you're like, wait, I can't keep up that fast. I don't know, like, what is an egg? What sweet potato was what again? If that is confusing to you, that is when counting calories and counting macros is going to be really helpful for you to start learning those basic nutrition topics. Now, if counting calories and counting macros seems really outside of the realm of possibility, you don't have to do that. You can start keeping track of your food, and what I would literally do is write down breakfast. For protein, I had this. For fat, I had this. For carbohydrate or vegetables, I had this. And put that down for every single meal. And that is one way that you can just track your meals and macro base your meals without actually having to count them. So either way works. The second way, the benefit to not counting and tracking every single thing is that you rely more on intuitive eating. And one thing about counting calories, counting macros, tracking everything really crazy, the thing about that is that you really tend to override your hunger and satiety cues. So in other words, you will save up a bank for the day, right? So that you can go eat something else. So you might not eat even though you're hungry. And when you are not hungry, you might eat just because you have calories or macros left. So I'm not a big fan of it for that approach. But if you're just new and you're learning or you know it works for you, then make sure that you heed the tips of breaking down and looking at the grams of macros of protein, fat, and carbs. If, on the other hand, you want to go more intuitive eating, then you're going to pay attention to your intuitive eating, to your hunger and satiety cues, right? You're going to eat when you're hungry, you're going to stop when you're full, you're going to eat only until 80% hungry, you're going to really pay attention to what your body is telling you that it needs, and really work on balancing those meals. So hopefully that helps clear up a little bit about what macros are and what the benefits are to using macros versus calories versus etc. If you do not sound like the person that wants to count, or even actually if you do sound like the person that you want to count, it actually would work either way. I just launched What to Eat meal plans, and so on my blog you can actually find What to Eat meal plans, and it's a subscription-based service. And so basically what I've done is I put together a meal plan. Well, not just one. I put together a new meal plan every single week with 5 different days, and I've set those calories, oh, there was my voice. I've set those calories to be 1,500 to 1,800, so appropriate for a female probably, but not to say males can't use the plan and just add or double quantities, etc., where you get all those macros for each meal. And so you can start to learn what kinds of meals have protein, fat, carbohydrate, but we don't display calories, right? Now you can easily calculate the calories by multiplying grams of protein and carb by 4 and fat by 9, but we don't make it a calorie-based plan. We do all the work for you on the back end so that we know that the meal plans are balanced. They have at least 100 grams of protein. They're somewhere between 15 to 1,800 calories. And there's a balanced amount of protein and fat. So you can start to get an idea of what those foods are like by using those meal plans as a template and following your intuitive eating, or plugging those into accounting app and doing it that way as well. But I'm really excited about these meal plans. People have been loving them in the Facebook group. So I will link to those in the bottom, and up until the 19th, so it's 2018 because I know YouTube videos live forever, until January 19th of 2018, those plans will be 25% off, which is pretty awesome. So 25% off, whether it's a monthly, 3-month, or 6-month subscription. The 3-month and 6-month subscriptions come with my 52 Weeks to 52 Healthy Habits series, which teaches you the foundation of healthy habits and the foundation of healthy eating 1 week at a time with a tracker so you can track your habits, right? So we're talking the foundation, the basics, and I will link to that as well. And it's a program I sell separately, but I also put it in the meal plans. So we're talking learn to drink water, stay on it, stay focused. We're talking learn to drink, learn what a healthy carb is, learn what a protein is, learn what a fat is. Everything is broken down week by week. Learn what's most important at breakfast, or if breakfast is even important. All those things are given to you in bite-sized pieces so that at the end of the year, you pretty much know everything that I would have taught a client. And that's really, really huge. So if you guys have any questions, I will definitely answer them on the comment section, or you can email me at hungryhobby@gmail.com. And those meal plans, you can find those at hungryhobby.net/meal-plans. And I'm also available for one-on-one nutrition counseling. I do functional and integrative counseling, hormone and metabolism assessments, make sure that everything is working from the inside out so that we can help you achieve your goals. You can also find a link to that on my blog, but most of that is at hungryhobbyrd.com. Now that I'm done spewing out random websites, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and let me know what other topics you want me to cover. What other things are confusing to you guys? What other things can I help you with? All right, guys, have a good one.